What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Wake and Jake College Football Show. Today I am recapping the second round of the playoffs, which some of those games were much more exciting than I thought they would be, so that was a nice surprise. Also, we'll be getting into a Minnesota Minute, previewing the Gophers as they take on Virginia Tech at the Duke's Mayo Bowl. So we'll get into that, recap the playoffs. That's what you can expect today, and yeah, let's get a little high. All right, we'll start with Penn State and Boise. Penn State 31, Boise State 14. Yes, Penn State won by double digits. Yes, they won by 17. No, it wasn't necessarily a blowout, or at least for the first three quarters it wasn't. Going into this game, I said Madsen had to have the greatest game of his short career so far, of his young career. And honestly, he was playing great. For those first three quarters, he was playing great. It was crazy to see. And Boise State was very much in this game, even though Ashton Jeanty was held, the Heisman runner-up, was held in check the whole game, 30 carries for 104 yards. Absolutely great. And he needed to be. Madsen needed to be great for them to even have a chance. Unfortunately, he was only good for three quarters. Now, I'm not going to really fault him for some of those interceptions. I think there was one on fourth down where he just had to throw something up there, and there was another one. There was, let's just put it this way, of the three interceptions, I think there was one that was really bad. Two, I can understand why that interception was thrown because you had to make a play. Overall, though, first three quarters he played great, and like I said, he absolutely needed to be. Now, Penn State's defense, kept Ashton Jeanty in check, eventually forced those three turnovers in the fourth quarter, only held Boise to 14 points, and that's great. That's what you want to see from your defense moving forward, especially, spoiler alert, taking on Notre Dame next week, who doesn't have a great offense. You really want to shut them down, give your offense a chance. But offensively for Penn State, a little concerning. Dominant in the run game, which, let's be honest, we all expected. We expected it to be Allen and Singleton just running all over the place. And they did just that. But then, I don't know if it's necessarily bad play calling, if it was just bad execution. I don't know if you blame James Franklin, Drew Aller, Andel Kotelnicki. But some really questionable play calling in this game. Penn State was dominant on the ground, just absolutely dominant. Yet, they would call passing plays in certain situations where you were just kind of questioning why you were running that play. Because if you look at Penn State, they don't really have a dominant number one receiver. They don't really have great receivers. Tyler Warren is their best receiver, and he's a tight end, which is great and all. But they don't really have any weapons at the receiver position, which, yeah, that could hurt them moving forward. It really could. Drew Aller was 13 of 25, 171 yards. Yes, he did throw 3 touchdowns, and yes, one of those touchdowns was absolutely beautiful. I just didn't like some of the situations when they chose to throw the ball when they were so dominant on the ground. I don't think Drew Aller necessarily needed to throw the ball 25 times for them to win 31-14. I think he could have thrown the ball 15 times and they could have won. I'm not a coach. I'm just a stoner who likes to watch college football, so I guess what do I know? But felt weird, felt questionable, didn't love it. Makes me a little nervous moving forward, but you know what? As we're going to get into, a lot of these teams make me nervous moving forward. Each one has a little quirk that makes me nervous for them winning national championship, except for one. And we will get into them. Texas 39, Arizona State 31 in double overtime. Game of the day. Game of the second round. Potentially the best bowl game we've had yet. Or playoff game even. I don't know how anybody can watch college football. Now, if you're just not familiar with Kenny Dillingham or Arizona State, Sam Levitt, Cam Scadaboo, fine, I understand. But if you have watched Arizona State and you hate Kenny Dillingham, you hate Arizona State, you hate Sam Levitt, you hate Cam Scadaboo, and you are not Arizona or a direct rival of Arizona State, I don't know what's wrong with you. As just a casual college football observer who has no ties to the Big 12, who, unless Minnesota's playing Arizona State, I'm no reason to root against them. How can you not like Kenny Dillingham? Just so fun to watch. Just his facial expressions, just an absolutely ball of energy. And this team, scrappy, underrated all year, and they went 10-2, won the Big 12, are playing in the playoffs, and took Texas to double overtime. Sam Levitt, watch out. Next year, he is going to be great. He was doing everything he could to win this game, and Cam Scadaboo, talk about leaving it all on the field. That man did everything he could to win this game for Arizona State. Arizona State, I'm sure, has had more than a few alums and current students, Friday night, Saturday night, have a good puke and rally. I'm sure Arizona State's had a lot of those. But none of those puke and rallies have been greater than Cam Scadaboo. The report came from the sideline. He is throwing up profusely, and he's trying to get liquids in. What? I'm sorry. If I'm throwing up profusely on the sidelines and I need liquids, I'm probably not going in right away. But this motherfucker went out right away. Finished the game with 30 carries, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. He also threw like a 40-yard touchdown and also had 99 yards receiving. This man was doing it all and put the team on his back and literally did all he could to win that game. It was unreal to see. He was struggling in the first half a little bit, and honestly, it was after that puke. After he was profusely throwing up, turned it around. Just the greatest puke and rally we've ever seen. Texas, this was my worry for Texas. We saw them come out and just dominate Clemson in the run game, and we were like, shit, man, where has this been? Why can't they do this every single week? Can they keep that up? Are they going to show up and just run the ball down Arizona State's throats? No, they did not. It was not great. 53 rushing yards, 1.8 yards per carry. Quinn Ewers was good enough, 20 of 30, 300 plus yards, few touchdowns. That was good, great, whatever. Running the ball, though, wow, just brutal. Also some questionable play calling. You have a lead late, trying to run the clock down, and you decide to throw the ball when you could just run it. But whatever. I know you weren't really getting anything in the run game, so I kind of get it. But it's my worry for Texas. That offense, they just aren't always consistent and can't just put together a string of good games or great games. But seriously, though, this game was great. If you missed it, go back and watch it. I'm not kidding. Even if I've spoiled the ending for you, go back and watch it. Arizona State had multiple drives. And that's another thing. This Texas defense is great. They have been all year. Props to them, because Arizona State had multiple drives stall out deep in Texas territory. One died at like the 2-yard line, another one at like the 24, 25, and then there was another at like the mid-30. Just Arizona State's moving the ball, and just can't quite do enough. They also had like a missed field goal at one point. Just all sorts of troubles. In this game, it seemed all but lost for Arizona State. It really did. And I think with about 6.5 minutes left in the game, they finally push through and score a touchdown. Then they get the ball back, and they tie it up. In a span of a minute and a half, basically, they scored 2 touchdowns to tie it up. Unreal. Texas had then also got the ball back and had more than one attempt to win this in regulation, but missed 2 field goals. The announcers jinx, man. They said it. He's been great inside the 40, blah, blah, blah. I don't remember quite what the last field goal was at, but they basically said how great this kicker's been at this distance, and missed. Went to overtime. Texas prevails in overtime. Shout out to that Texas defense, like I said. You may have given up a few scores, but you had a lot of good stops and made a lot of plays in just enough plays, including the game-sealing interception in double overtime. I picked Texas to win. I did, and just, for ego's sake, you want Texas to win, but I was rooting for Arizona State, and I don't know how you couldn't. If you weren't a Texas fan or an Arizona fan, I don't know how you were not rooting for Arizona State. It's hard not to root for them. They're a fun team. Sad to see them lose, but they put up a good fight, and they're really going to miss Cam Scadaboo, but watch out for Arizona State. Next year they could be fun again. All right, the Rose Bowl. The game that was supposed to be the game of the day. Ohio State, Oregon, a rematch from earlier this year, which some considered to be the best regular season game. Wow. This year. Ohio State 41, Oregon 21. Unreal. Did not see this coming. I figured Ohio State would score. I took the over on their team total, but I did not think they would score as much as they did, as quick as they did. This game was over so quick. I think it was like 31-7 at halftime or 8 at halftime. Ohio State didn't really have to do much in the second half offensively to win this. They're firing on all cylinders right now. They really are. Their defense, 8 sacks, 13 tackles for loss. Oregon's running backs, 15 carries, 21 yards. That's terrible if you didn't know. Just terrible. If you add in, because they count sacks as rushing attempts, so if you count in Dylan Gabriel, Oregon had negative yards rushing against Ohio State. Dylan Gabriel had nowhere to throw the ball and had very little time to even do so. And offensively for Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith, absolutely insane. A true freshman, which is the craziest part. 7 receptions, 187 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, this feels cheesy to say because I think this joke has been made 100 times, but I think it's a legit question. Did Oregon realize they had to cover him? Because the dude is insanely good, and if you don't stop him, he will burn you. He's one of those receivers that if you take your eye off of him for a second, he is going to burn you. Ohio State got to do whatever they wanted all game long, and it was absolutely bizarre to see this Oregon team this disoriented. Like I said, this game was over so quick. It wasn't even a matchup. Ohio State has come into these playoffs and just boom, boom, won those back-to-back games against Tennessee and Oregon now just in dominant fashion. Some are speculating, did Ohio State lose to Michigan on purpose? No, Ohio State did not lose to Michigan on purpose to get this seeding. It's absolutely not what happened. They did not lose to Michigan to get an extra week of rest or anything like that because they didn't want to show anything on tape. No. They wanted to beat Michigan. The ending of that game should tell you that alone, just with how everything played out. Ryan Day being weird, the flag planting, the fighting, all that. Absolutely insane. Ohio State is the one team. I guess, no, you know what? Ohio State has a weakness. It's mental. That's really all it is. It's mental. Defensively, there's really no weakness. Sure, there's one part that's going to be the weakest, but they're solid all around. Offensively, same. I guess offensive line would be the weakness, but really it's all just mental. If they can just mentally keep it together, if Ryan Day can just mentally keep it together, and we've seen him turn it on when the playoffs come around. They lost to Georgia a couple years ago as the clock struck midnight. That field goal didn't just miss, but that field goal missed. It's all mental for them. It's all mental for Ohio State. If they can keep mentally strong, they'll win these next 2 games. They'll beat Texas and they'll beat Notre Dame, and they've already beaten Penn State. So it's all mental. All mental. Notre Dame, Georgia. Notre Dame pulls out the win 23-10. And it might be time to start putting some respect on Notre Dame. Their defense is really good. Really, really good. Now, Georgia's offense has been hit and miss all year. So I guess that's not saying too much, but they're really good. Turned Georgia over twice. Held them to 2 conversions. Georgia. 15 third and fourth down attempts, and you had 2 conversions. That's terrible. Shout out to Notre Dame for that, because that's fantastic. Notre Dame's offense, though, they make me nervous. They make me nervous as hell, dude. It's not good. 14 of their 23 points came from special teams, or basically from turnovers. Right before halftime, strip sack. Georgia turns the ball over deep, like very deep in their own zone. One play later, Notre Dame scores. It was just a quick slant end zone, safety corner got caught looking in the backfield. It was a short field. And then opening up the second half, returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown. Right there, that's a 14-point swing, and Georgia just could not recover. It should have been 13-3 at halftime, or no, 6-3 at halftime. Sorry, should have been 6-3 at halftime, but you turn the ball over, give them that short field, 13-3 instead, and then you allow the opening kickoff off the second half to go for a touchdown, and it's 20-3 just like that. Rough, absolutely rough. But Notre Dame's offense did not do much. Leonard was 15 of 24 for 90 yards in 1 touchdown. Sure, he threw a touchdown. That's cool. That's great. 15 of 24 for 90 yards. That's so bad. 15 of 24, fine, whatever. It is. You should not be throwing the ball 24 times and only getting 90 yards. Rough. How do you beat Notre Dame? First of all, don't allow a kickoff for a touchdown. Force them to throw the ball, because yikes, it's not good. He did have 80 yards on the ground, which does help, but yikes. Running backs also could not get much going on the ground. And it makes me nervous, because they're playing a Penn State team who has a very good defense and just shut down some would argue the best, some people think Cam Scadaboo, so depends on how you look at it. They just shut down the best or second best running back in the country. Notre Dame likes to run the ball more than anything. Penn State's defense might give them a lot of trouble, and if somehow they get past Penn State, then they got to face a Texas defense that is very good, or they have to face an Ohio State defense that is very good. I don't like where Notre Dame's at. Good for them. They won 2 playoff games. They're moving on to the semifinals. I just think it stops here. If somehow they make that national championship game, I still don't see it going well. I actually don't see it going well for anybody, because I think Ohio State's just going to win it all because of the way they're rolling. But Notre Dame's offense makes me nervous. Of the 4 bets I gave out, and then the 4 honorable mentions, 4 of 8 of those hit, so 50-50. Not good, not bad. I'll take it though. It's whatever. Few of those really, Texas and Arizona State going into overtime really screwed me over there. But other than that, I was either on or off, either way on or way off. Could have been better. Playoffs have been, I ended the season on such a roll. Playoffs have been just kind of up and down for me. I don't know. Those blowouts in the first round kind of screwed me over. I was obviously better in the second round, but I also don't bet bowl season, so the very few that I have bet on in bowl season have only been the playoffs and maybe one other. But we do still have one more bowl game to preview. Minnesota Minute, the Duke's Mayo Bowl. This one I am going to bet on because it's Minnesota. I got to bet on them. Virginia Tech, Minnesota, Duke's Mayo Bowl. I think Minnesota started as like a 4.5 point favorite. I could be wrong. I think it was 4.5, but now it's up to like 8.5. I think I've seen 9.5 somewhere as well. It has skyrocketed in Minnesota's favor, which rightfully so. I think this is important to look at. Look at PJ Fleck's bowl record. If you're a Gopher fan, you're well aware of it. Undefeated as the Gophers head coach, he shows out for bowl games. And this is also a trend you can look at with the Gophers. Anytime, take out first game of the season because that does not count. It's just, first game of the season is hard to game plan for just because you literally have not seen anything, except for previous years. And teams are totally different from year to year. When PJ Fleck has more than a week to prepare for an opponent, more often than not, he gets the win. Bowl games and regular season included. He's just when it's 1 week, more often than not, he's going to, get a good enough game plan to win the game, whatever. But if you give him more than a week, game over. You're more than likely going to lose. He's going to have the perfect game plan, and he's going to have his team executing it to perfection. And that's what I expect in this game. When you start looking at Virginia Tech's team, most, if not all, their best players are not playing or not expected to play. Now, it's so difficult to say because even with the Gophers, I can't confidently say everybody who's playing. And we won't know until like 2 hours before the game. But even if everybody that's projected to not play for Virginia Tech, and even if everybody who's projected to not play for Minnesota all comes true, there's just no way Minnesota loses this game because we still have some of our best players that will be playing. I don't know that Virginia Tech has any of their best players potentially playing. Kyron Drones, their starting quarterback most of the season, dealing with some injuries, might not play, which means they're going to be going with their backup. Now, their backup, I think they like him. He is very good with his legs, which, if you've watched the Gophers in the past, a mobile quarterback has been their kryptonite. They struggle against mobile quarterbacks. So that is probably the one thing that would make me a little bit nervous. Now, this game probably going to be a lower scoring game if you had to ask my opinion, just because Virginia Tech likes to run the ball. Run. That's their go-to because Kyron Drones, mobile as hell. Pop Watson, also mobile. They use their quarterbacks in the run game. They love to run the ball. We all know PJ Fleck loves to run the ball. I feel like this could be a lower scoring game, a classic PJ Fleck game, although I don't know how many running backs will be available for the Gophers because Newbin's gone, Bangura's gone. I don't know if Marcus Majors plays, so it could be a thing running back room. So maybe the Gophers do throw it a lot. Who knows? That being said, Gophers are an 8.5 point favorite, and I think I'm going to take that line. And I think I'll probably also lean the under in this game because I don't think Virginia Tech's going to do much on offense. They might. Pop Watson's going to make a play and score a touchdown, maybe. I just don't. I don't know that they'll be able to do anything on offense. I think this Gopher defense is going to give them hell. Give me Minnesota and the points. Give me the under. And we'll stick with that for now, but stay tuned. I may put out my bets for that one before the game. Thank you all for joining me. It was a very fun second round. At least the first two games were exciting, especially that Texas game. I'm really excited for the semifinals, the third round. It's going to be exciting. From here on out, I'm going to preview the next round of the playoffs. I'm obviously going to recap the next round. But other than that, I'll probably do a season review for each conference. I'm going to recap the The bowl game for the Gophers, the Duke's Mayo Bowl. We'll obviously touch on transfer portal. I haven't really gotten into all the coaches, or at least assistant coaches that have moved positions. So, we got some stuff that we still got to cover from this crazy off season. Transfer portal, we might not get into that until after the playoffs just because the portal is closed, but teams that are still playing do still have some time to enter the portal. I think it's like 4 or 5 days after they play their last game that they have to put their name in the portal. So, after the national championship game is when I'll probably finally kind of touch on the portal and be like, all right, here's the top players that have entered. Here's where some of them are going. Obviously, some are undecided, that sort of thing. But yeah, we're going to start slowing down. We're going to start dropping to once a week because, guys, we're getting to the end. Like I said, one more bowl game, the Duke's Mayo Bowl. And then we got 3 more playoff games. Well, national championship and 2 playoff games. We're at the end. It's a sad day, but it's also exciting because we've got some great football ahead of us. I'll talk to you guys next week.